From crease to crease and corner to corner, Bettor Hockey Now is NHL fantasy and betting done better. Step into the dot for Bettor Hockey Now on the Bettor Sports Network.
Yes, indeed. Welcome into the last November episode of Bettor Hockey Now here on the Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm YouTube channels. I'm Adam Bernard at Pucking Thoughts, back making his return to the fold this week. Mr. Linemate at Ant Rivera 86, Anthony Rivera, and then Mr. Christopher Morais right down below me at Fuzzy Chris 91. Fellas, good to have the whole line back together. How are we doing today?
Oh man, it feels great to be back. 2 weeks of a sinus infection. Felt like I got hit with a hockey stick from Jacob Trouba right in the face.
Oh, well, couldn't let that one go, huh? I mean, Chris had a good response, so I mean, he covered me there. So
he did.
I did. That was unfortunate. It kind of slipped out by itself. I woke up and chose violence that day.
I mean, I feel like 6 days a week. Maybe one day you don't, but the other 6 you do.
No, I choose violence quite a bit. I'm here to stir the sauce. Add the little spice to the whatever homemade meat sauce that you are putting together. I am there to stir it.
And we all love grandma's meat sauce, over a nice little dish of ziti or something like that. Can't go wrong with that. But going to talk some hockey today. We got some Rangers, some Winnipeg Jets, Edmonton Oilers. We'll talk Pierre-Luc Dubois for a little bit. And then on our main segment, normally devoted to a team, but today you got that age-old, American Thanksgiving rule. 77% of the teams that are in the playoffs on American Thanksgiving make the playoffs, so basically 12 to 16 in and 4 of those out. We'll go through those teams and figure out who's going to make the cut and who's not going to make the cut, who's going to replace those 4 teams that currently are on the outside looking in as of then. But first, let's get into quick hits here. And, of course, got to start off with my New York Rangers, who lead the Metro by 7 points over Carolina currently when we record this on Monday afternoon. They're 8-1-1 in their last 10. They knocked the big bad Bruins off over the weekend. Jonathan Quick, I got it wrong. I am not afraid and not shy to admit I got it wrong about him so far. 6-0-1, 1.99 goals against, 930 save percentage. Igor Shesterkin 8-3 with a 2.45 goals against and a 916 save percentage. Mika and Kreider have got their chemistry going again. That second line of Panarin, Laffy, and Vinny Trocheck, pretty strong and playing well. Are we ready to call them the class of the East right now? And I'm not saying that in a braggadocious way. I'm just saying it as a guy who watches hockey. Are we ready to say they are the top team in the East right now, and at least for the foreseeable future?
I mean, they're built like it. That's what it is. This is a team as well that's doing it without Philip Hedl. He's out due to injury. Adam Fox as well, and they don't look like they've missed a beat. The Rangers are a team with a ton of depth. I don't think that we've hid that at any point. We know that they have depth at every position, but that depth is really going deep right now. And if you had Jonathan Quick being just decent at any point in the season, you can go and collect your check. You can buy the island that you want because that's the amount of money you would have gotten. Because, I mean, I know we were talking at the beginning of the season, the least amount of games that he plays, probably the better it is for the New York Rangers. And now it looks like Igor is going to get his he doesn't have to shoulder this entire team. You can give Jonathan Quick starts and still get results. He's going to come back down to earth a little bit here because he's not finishing the year with a sub 2 goals against average. But this is a team that has played well. They are definitely the class in the Metropolitan Division. I don't think anybody is going to catch them if they continue on this pace. The team that should catch them, the Carolina Hurricanes, don't look very good. Nobody can stop a puck there. And I just don't think the rest of that division is anywhere close. I mean, what the Boston Bruins have been doing this season is kind of bizarre. I don't know if they can maintain that the entire year, but to me, the New York Rangers look like a very, very good hockey team, and they should be destined for a long run come playoff time.
After the way the season ended last year, it was a pretty huge for the Rangers to get off to a really good start, and they've done just that. They got Peter Laviolette, who is notorious for getting the teams that he goes to for the first time off to a great start, and he's done that here with the Rangers. And you talk about, you got the best goalie in hockey, and Igor Shesterkin, and then you follow that up with a 3-time Stanley Cup champion, whether however you want to take the third one. Jonathan Quick had 1 too with the Kings. He's got the 1 with Vegas. You got the experience there, and every time the Rangers get a new backup goalie, this tandem always seems to do well, and this is why the Rangers are in the position they are right now. They've played so well. They've gotten off to such a great start that even if they falter a little bit, it would take probably some type of collapse for them not to make the playoffs in my eyes. So they're off to a great start. I think they are right now the class of the East, along with Boston, although they took care of business against Boston. But those 2 teams right now are the top of that Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and here's the thing. If I'm the Rangers, Carolina is eventually going to figure it out and, get back in the mix here. I mean, if you look at the odds, the Rangers are plus 1,000 to win the cup. They open plus 1,500, which is the same as Vegas, Dallas right now. Colorado was plus 950. Carolina plus 950. Colorado 750. Carolina's plus 500 to win the conference. Rangers are plus 550, which is tied with Boston. So Vegas still thinks Carolina is the conference favorite, even though the Rangers are playing the best hockey of the team in the division or the conference right now. So I think there's still a belief there that Carolina is just, they're a slow cook. They're going to get burning here soon in a little bit. But yes, again, the goaltending issues maybe change that if they don't start to improve in time. When you look at the rest of the division there, and I had the standings up here, and I'll bring them back up here in a second. But if right now there are teams at the bottom of the Metropolitan that are going to be better. Carolina, despite their troubles, they're still in second place. We're waiting for Philly to kind of go back, move back down in the standings. Pittsburgh has got playing better lately. They're going to move up. We're waiting for the Devils to figure it out. But while we're talking Metro for a minute here, what's going on with the Devils? I mean, I know they didn't have Hughes for a while. Timo Meier has been inconsistent or not in the lineup and just not playing well when he is in the lineup. So, I mean, besides those things, but what else is going on with the Devils right now?
Well, you talk about the strength at center, right? You were without Hughes and Nico Hischier, your top 2 centers, for a good couple of weeks. Hughes comes back. He doesn't miss a beat. You saw what happened on Saturday when Nico Hischier came back and the Devils were firing on all cylinders, ended up winning that game against the Buffalo Sabres. So a lot of it has to do with injuries, but also a lot of it is goaltending. You talked about the Rangers, right? Shesterkin and Quick. You have a backup in Akira Schmid, who's still kind of a rookie. You have Vitek Vanacek, who's an okay goalie, so that's going to be a little bit of a struggle. And the defense just doesn't seem right at this moment in time. They're not clicking like they were last year. You lose Severson, who was a big part of that. Ryan Graves as well, who was a big part of that. You take them out and you put in Luke Hughes, who as well as he's played, he's still learning and he's still a rookie, and you're trying to get these good line combinations. You haven't had Dougie Hamilton playing at his best ability yet either this season. So it's been a little bit of a struggle. Obviously, there's all the talk about, and we even talked about it, the Devils this offseason. And I think it might have gotten to them a little bit. I think the hype might have gotten to them a little bit. And with you add along the injuries, and this is why they're sitting at 9-9. They have 19 points, 3-7 in their last 10.
I think the most concerning thing here for the Devils, we know that they can score goals, and losing. I don't think many teams would have a lot of success if you lost your top 2 centermen for any period of time, right? I mean, Nico Hischier is just trying to stay healthy at this point. Jack Hughes, we know what he can do when he's in the lineup, and that's fine. But the concerning part here is the goaltending, because they've allowed 70 goals up to this point. Let's disregard the Columbus Blue Jackets, as we continue to do. They give up too many goals, and that is a problem. And at some point, you have to stop the puck, depending on who's in front of you. I get injuries happen, but that's like a sore excuse here. You got to play better. And if you have nobody to stop the puck, then you're basically the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's what you are. You're a team that can score goals, but you can't defend. And if you can't defend, then you can't win Stanley Cups, right? What makes the Vegas Golden Knights so good is the fact that they can defend, right? Teams that can score goals is great. Defense wins championships, and we are reminded of this every year, and especially this year, because if you need a reminder of it, look at the Maple Leafs, look at the Edmonton Oilers, look at how those teams do when they cannot get anybody to stop the puck for them. And whether you want to blame the goalies or not is neither here nor there, because goalies are paid to do something, which is keep the puck out of their own net. But they are a product of the team, right? And if that team doesn't play well in front of them, or if you can't play solid team defense, that's the result that you get. So either you adjust and you say, hey, maybe we're not going to score as many goals. Maybe we got to win games 3-1. But if you're winning games 3-1, you're still winning hockey games, because come playoff time, you're not going to score 7. You need to play well in your own zone, and the Devils got to figure that out at some point.
And yes, they didn't have their top 2 centers for a while, but I think Anthony, he mentioned it briefly, but losing Ryan Graves, when you have a defenseman like that in your top pairing that just goes out and is a very strong, not that he's weak offensively, he can contribute in that end and join the rush, but he is a defensive guy, and every top playoff team needs a guy like that that's just going to go out and eat minutes and play strong in their own end and balance out a guy like Dougie Hamilton. So I do think they miss him a little bit. Just to go back to the Rangers before we move on, again, no Hedl, no Fox. They still continue to roll. And like you said before, Chris, they are built like very well. They have a strong top 6, 2 top lines that can be interchangeable as the 1 and 2, depending upon who's playing better. They have a good 3rd line, a good 4th line, strong defensive play. They're just built from top to bottom to withstand the regular season and playoff time if they stay healthy. So good on the Rangers. Now, another team that's rolling along right now, the Winnipeg Jets. They are also 8-2 in their last 10, so similar to the Rangers. Currently 2 points behind the Avalanche for tops in the Central, tied with Dallas at 26 points. Connor Hellebuck right now 3rd in wins behind Georgiev and Talbot at 10-4-1 with a .265 goals against and a .908 save percentage. Kyle Connor doing his thing, 3rd in the league in goals scored with 14 behind Besser and Kucherov. Scheifele doing his thing at 7 goals and 16 assists. Cole Perfetti certainly contributing nicely here with 7 goals and 10 assists. So with Minnesota's struggles, which we're going to have to dive into that at some point, we know what the Coyotes and the Blackhawks are. The Blues and Predators, I still don't buy into. They're mediocre teams. I don't think that St. Louis is as good as they've been playing lately. I mean, of the top 3 teams in the Central set, we knew it was going to be Colorado and Dallas, and we kind of had Minnesota penciled in for that 3rd spot coming into the season. Now not looking so good, and now it's looking like Winnipeg is like saying, hey, guys, that's us, and everybody else is like clearly behind them.
Yeah, you look at last season, how the Wild, finished and made it into the playoffs, and all the hype going with them going into this season. And for them to get off to a kind of opposite start of, what we talked about with the Rangers, you want to get off to that good start. They've gotten off to a totally opposite start. Losers of 7 in a row. And when you have the Coyotes, Predators, and Blues above you, and obviously those 3 teams will probably at some point come back down. But with the, obviously the Avalanche and the Stars are going to be the 2 top teams. And with the Jets playing as well as they're playing, I see them being that 3rd team. I don't think the Wild can overcome that, especially with, you have Connor Hellebuck in net for the Jets, and they really seem to have taken off ever since both him and Scheifele signed those contracts. So very well played for the Jets, and I see them being that 3rd team in that Central Division.
Winnipeg Jets are getting good goaltending. I mean, you paid a man to do exactly what his job is, and he is doing it, phenomenally here. He is up there. I mean, when you look at Winnipeg, yes, they score goals, but they keep the puck out of their own net. They're right up there with the Colorado Avalanche and the Dallas Stars. Those are 2 very good offensive teams, but also built very well defensively. The Colorado to me has one of the, the best 6-man defense in the NHL. They are built to defend. And, oh, by the way, you can also score a bunch of goals. Dallas, the same thing. Their top 9 is really, really good. Their defense might lack a little bit, but they play well together and they get the job done. And then Jake Ottinger is good. The Jets are getting, the production that they're getting is helping them a ton from players that are stepping up to get it. You look at guys like Cole Perfetti who just move into that spot and do exactly what they need to do. Vladislav Lemesnikov's playing on that 2nd line, kind of underrated, not really talking about it. Nikolai Ehlers is a great player. I wish he would play more on the power play, but we're not there yet. And defensively, they're built, they're built well. Josh Morrissey is there to do most of the heavy lifting, but guys like Neil Pionk are really, really good on the back end, solidifies everything that you need. And then you got, the Brendan Dillons, the Nate Schmitz, the Dylan DeMellos. These are guys who play defensive hockey, and they're there to make sure the puck doesn't end up in your net. So this is a really, really well-built hockey team. I'm excited to see what they do if they get to the playoffs, because we saw what they did last season. They kind of just showed up and then played basic 4 good periods of hockey and then forgot what was happening. So they have some road to take. I think this is a better team that is constructed. I don't think the loss of Pierre-Luc Dubois really hurts them, because the rest of that gang has stepped up and has done what they needed to do. Kyle Connor is an elite shooter in the NHL when he shoots the puck. Mark Scheifele just got to get him the puck. It's no surprise that those two have found each other and are doing exactly what they need to do. So good for them, good for their offense. I like that they're doing well. They're just kind of proving everybody wrong, because a lot of people just had them, towards the bottom of the Central. We just kind of said, yeah, that's where you're going to hang out. You're going to have a good time there. Mail it in. We'll see if you guys are heading for a rebuild. And they're not doing that.
Yeah, it's funny how we came into the season basically writing off Winnipeg. All right, they're going to trade Hella. It's not a matter of if, but when they trade Hellebuck and all that stuff, and then they come to the extension with him and Scheifele, like Anthony pointed out. And since that, it's just been a complete juggernaut. You talk about how defensively strong they are. Yes, come playoff time, that's exactly a team I don't want to see in the first round, is a team that's just going to clamp you down and limit your opportunities and kind of drag you into this. You hate to say dump and chase hockey, because nobody plays that anymore really, but similar to that, we're just going to grind you down and see who can win a 2-1 hockey game. The depth of Winnipeg up front does concern me a little bit at the forward position, but again, Vladislav Nemesnikov seems like one of those guys where he can literally play on a different team every day and be a contributor somewhere in their lineup and not be a weakness. That's just what he is. You talked about Josh Morrissey before, continuing to be a strong top defenseman there for Winnipeg. And yeah, it's going to come down to Hellebuck at this point. As well as he plays, they'll go as deep as they can. He is the perfect candidate for, if a goalie gets hot, nobody's going to beat. You're not beating them. So yes, Colorado still the kings of the division. Dallas right there. But yeah, Winnipeg, I think, establishing themselves as that third best team in the division, and nobody's really challenging it. Like I said, I don't believe in the Blues right now, even though they played a little bit better lately. And we'll see what happens. If Minnesota can find their footing, because again, we're not even in December yet. There's a long season to go, and we'll talk about teams in and out of the playoffs coming up later on. But third period here, we like to do a little waiver talk. Chris, last week we always talk about the waivers here. Who's your cover boy this week for the Fantasy Alarm waiver article for this week?
I need most of you to sit down before I tell this to you, because you're not going to believe this either. It is Mike Hoffman. Remember him?
Of the San Jose Sharks?
Of the San Jose Sharks. I am the first person who wants to talk poorly about Mike Hoffman, having watched him play hockey in person at the Bell Center. It's not great sometimes, but we know what Mike brings here, and he is here to score goals. The San Jose Sharks don't do much of that, but that is what his job is. He is there to score goals. He has 6 in the last 6 games. I don't know how he's doing it. He is finding the back of the net, and he's doing this. Some nights he doesn't play very much. Scenes under 15 minutes, which is fine. It's Mike Hoffman, right? When you're getting blown out of the water, it is what it is. But San Jose has looked, they were god awful, right? Losing 10-1 and 10-3. So you can only go up from there. And they have played better. They've actually won a couple of games. They look, they don't look like the team that's just going to get smashed every night by whoever comes into the building. They look like they're going to put up a little bit of a fight. How long does that last? Who knows? But Mike Hoffman comes out and he's going to play power play minutes. So he's going to get those power play points that you like. I don't think he's taking enough shots, but again, he's aging. It's fine. But if he's putting the puck in the net, that's all I care about. That is all I really care about Mike Hoffman. So if you're in deeper formats, you need a guy who scores goals. Mike Hoffman is on this pace where he is scoring goals. He is going to come back down to earth. Maybe that's next week. Maybe it's in 2 weeks. Maybe it's in 3. Who knows? But right now, I'll buy in on Mike Hoffman, who's under 5% owned in Yahoo leagues. He's basically free. 95% chance. He's just riding the waiver wire. So if you need somebody to help kind of plug into your lineup, you're dealing with some injuries, yada, 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 Mike Hoffman is is serviceable. He is breathing. He has a pulse.
Sharks 5-1 in their last 10. Don't look now. Here they come. I mean, he does play on the top line. I mean, that top line right now is Luke Kunin and William Eklund, which, listen, Eklund's a young guy that they're going to let him take his lumps out there and learn on the job. So Hoffman at least has some talent on that line. He's playing on the second power play unit. Again, if it's a league where goals matter and that worthless plus-minus stat doesn't hurt you, go out and get him, because somebody's got to put the puck in the net for San Jose. And if you want more coverage like that, don't forget at fantasyalarm.com. We do the podcast here weekly, but at fantasyalarm.com, you can get the All-Pro subscription, unlock all content for all sports, including all annual draft guides, daily and weekly rankings, value vault, positional coaches, and more. Go to fantasyalarm.com, and they'll let you sign up there. And take advantage. I believe if you're watching this on Cyber Monday, there is a Cyber Monday deal there right now. So go take advantage of that. Now, third period, have the Edmonton Oilers turned the corner for good? We were just talking about the Sharks being at the bottom of that division. Edmonton still, in seventh place. 5 points ahead of the Sharks. But they've been doing better lately. They've won what here? They're 3-3 since the coaching change, but they won their last two by a combined score of 13-2. It's against Washington and Anaheim. Take that as you will. But hey, sometimes you need to see a couple of bad teams to get things right again, to reset and get going. McDavid's got a goal and 8 assists in that stretch. Leon Draisaitl, 3 goals and an assist. Zach Hyman's got 4 goals and 3 assists in his last 3 games. Are the tough times behind the Oilers now? Does the rest of the Pacific Division need to be on notice that Edmonton's coming and they didn't even suck into December?
I think it all depends on how the Canucks play over the next couple of weeks. I feel like the Golden Knights and the Kings are going to be at the top of the Pacific Division, but I still have my worries about the Canucks. So the Oilers will probably pass up the Ducks, Flames, and the Kraken. But my concern would be if they can leapfrog the Oilers, because the Canucks, because if they could do that, then that puts them possibly in a position for the playoffs.
It's a flat out no for me. I'm done trusting the Edmonton Oilers here. We keep talking about poor goaltending, and the Edmonton Oilers have exactly that. Who did they beat up on? They beat up on the Carolina Hurricanes. As good as a team that they should be, team with poor goaltending. Absolutely beat them up. I will take nothing away from the Washington Capitals. They had a bad game. Charlie Lindgren's played well. They've been good defensively. They just went in and what did McDavid do? He had 4 points. So when McDavid and Draisaitl do, just the superstar stuff that they do, like he's got what, a goal and 8 assists in like 2 games? Yeah, sure. If I did that too, my team would have success. So this is they've fallen into the pattern of when McDavid and Draisaitl are just out of this world, they win hockey games. Which is fine, as they should, because they will drag their team to wherever they need to be. But on the surface, still, this is a team that cannot defend. They cannot defend, and they can't keep the puck out of their own zone. So until they figure that out, they may go past, the Anaheim Ducks and the Calgary Flames and, the Seattle Kraken, and that's fine. But in that Pacific Division, they are not a better team than the Vegas Golden Knights. They are certainly not a better team than the Los Angeles Kings. And they're not a better team than the Vancouver Canucks, even if they do come down to reality a little bit. Because all 3 of those teams are very well built defensively, and they have good goaltending. That we know. And the Oilers are nowhere near having close to good goaltending. So you're going to beat up on some teams, but you are not going to be able to make the play. They dug themselves a hole so deep. They're still at a winning percent. Their winning percentage is .375. Where are we going with this, Edmonton? They are just a flaming pile of garbage that is now flaming a little bit less. But they're still on fire, and they're still not very good. And if you watch them outside of the 2 best players in the world, it's a decent team. If you score 5-6 goals in the NHL, you win hockey games. It's as simple as that.
Now, we'll say they are 6 points out of the 8th spot in the West. Excuse me, if you were going for the old playoff format. So they're. There's still some work to be done. Now, excellent points that Chris made is they're not better than, even on their best day, they're not better than Vegas or Los Angeles. Let's just start right there. Those 2 teams are going to be jockeying for 1-2 in the Pacific all year round, all throughout the season. That's no disrespect to Vancouver. It's just we'll talk about Pierre-Luc Dubois in a second, but Kings are doing what they're doing without their best acquisition playing really well right now. So keep that in mind. Vancouver, I think, has established themselves, even though they are due to come a little regression there, but nonetheless, they have the goaltending, and we know what they are now, and they do it well. And the one thing those three teams also have in common is very good coaching, top to bottom. So Bruce Cassidy, Todd McClellan, Rick Tocchet, strong coaches all across the board. We don't know what we have in Chris Knobloch yet. It's still new. We don't, maybe he can go on and become an NHL coach for the next 20 years, but until we don't know what he is. So I because of Edmonton can kind of get on those streaks where they just go and win. They can absolutely, like we talked about, they can leapfrog the Anaheims, Calgarys, Seattles of the world. Overall in the West, the Nashvilles, the St. Louis's. But we just talked about the Winnipeg Jets. 7-game series right now, Edmonton, Winnipeg. Who are you taking?
Of course it's Winnipeg.
Probably. Unless Winnipeg just shits the bed.
Who's stopping the puck in Edmonton? Who is stopping it? And this is still a team that can't defend. They've done well because they put the puck in the net, which all good teams do, right? But what they do poorly is keep the puck out of their own net. And even if they get a little bit better, Stuart Skinner can't stop anything, and Jack Campbell is in the AHL. So unless you're figuring out that, or you're bringing in I think you need more than one good, solid defenseman. Like, I think at this point you need two. Like, you need to find some depth here, and you need to find it real quick. So on some nights, they're going to, like I said, they're going to go in and they're going to bully teams because their two best players in the world do that to others, right? When McDavid, he's not going to have 5 points every night, unfortunately. So when that happens, other teams will take advantage and they will score goals. And then, you trot out your best players hoping that they can maybe win a 6-5 hockey game. But I'm not buying into the Edmonton Oilers. I know everybody wants to. And look, maybe McDavid will make me eat every single word that I've just said. But if he does, that's fine. He's the greatest player in the world, as he should. But I don't trust them. I don't.
When you look at, and here's the other thing too, we established that the top three teams in the Central are Colorado, Dallas, Winnipeg. We established that the top three teams in the Pacific are Vegas, LA, and Vancouver. Tell me who's your lock for a wild card after that in the West. So that's why I think Edmonton is back in the mix, because when you look at the rest of the Western Conference, there is nobody there I trust. Everybody's got issues. Everybody's got pros and cons. And yes, Edmonton doesn't have goaltending, but I mean, when you look at it, I think they've got some work to do, and I think the division is long gone. But I think they are absolutely a team that's going to be in the wild card. And again, maybe that's going to be a scary proposition. Even if they can't stop the puck, you still got to see McDavid and Draisaitl round one. That could be scary. But that'll do it for quick hits here. We're going to move on to fantasy focus here, and we'll stay in the Pacific Division, and we'll talk a little Pierre-Luc Dubois here from the Los Angeles Kings at center. Some leagues you might have some left wing eligibility, but nonetheless, when you just kind of take like a quick glance at the stats, it doesn't look too bad. 5 goals, 6 assists in 19 games, only 1 power play goal, 36 shots on goal, averaging 16th and a half, 30 time ice on a night, average time of ice on a night. Say that 10 times fast. The Kings it's not affecting the Kings. They're 13-3 and 3, 8-1-1 in their last 10. He's losing more faceoffs than he's winning. He's dropped to the third line for now. Danault has moved up to the second line. Is this a case where it's just like, okay, it's a long period of adjustment to a new team? Or is maybe the role that we thought we were going to have in LA changed? Or maybe is there cause for concern that he's not going to live up to what he's done the past couple of seasons in Winnipeg?
I think it's a little bit of the, moving to a new team, kind of like the Jonathan Huberdeau effect, although he has not recovered from that. But I find it funny how we talked about this all offseason of how Philip Danault was going to take the back seat. He was going to get to the third line. We might not see much of him in fantasy as much anymore. Now it's the total opposite. Now it's Danault's in the second line and Dubois in the third line. So we'll see what happens moving forward. Maybe he got moved to, light up a spark. Maybe he's just not all in right now, and we'll see what happens moving forward.
I mean, you gave Pierre-Luc Dubois 8.5 for 8 years. So, like the return that you've gotten on him to this point, whatever the 20 plus games that they've played, is not very good. And I think the reason we don't really talk about it is because of how dominant the LA Kings are. Like I got to watch them play when like Montreal did their West Coast trip and then they went in and they played LA. And the Montreal Canadiens looked miserable. This is a team that couldn't generate any offense. Felix Copley can't stop a beach ball, and he got a shutout. That's how good the LA Kings are. This is a team that will suffocate you completely. They are big. They are strong. They dictate the pace. They do whatever they want on the ice against subpar competition. It was a clinic to watch. Just Montreal had no offense. There's nothing they could have done to stop this. So I think that for Pierre-Luc Dubois, the player, I think this gives him the opportunity to kind of figure out what's going on. I'm sure living life, in a Malibu beach house is probably really, really tough for some people. Like, I get that because his role here is joining a team that last season was top 5 in shots per game. So he comes into here being surrounded by players who just love to shoot the puck. And he's just not getting any points. He's part of a very good power play unit as well. He doesn't even have to hold all the defensive responsibilities. Andrzej Kopitar is there, and Philip Deneau does that as well. So, like, all you got to do is focus on being good, which is what you were paid to do. Even if he is on the third line, he's not playing the opposition's best players either. There is a ton of space for him to do what he wants, and he's not doing it. And that's unfortunate because I have shares of Pierre-Luc Dubois in fantasy because I thought, what a great position to be in, Pierre-Luc Dubois. You could feed the puck to, Kevin Fiala, and that will go well, or Alex. There's so much to want to love here, and he hasn't produced. So maybe it's just getting accustomed to the new system. Maybe it's getting accustomed to, the life of the 30 degrees Celsius weather that, is in LA. But I mean, I want more for him because there's just so much there for him to just grasp, and he's just not taking it.
And the other thing that's not helping, I mean, obviously a guy like Quentin Byfield is going to be locked into that top 6 with what's invested to him, and he's playing well on the top line with Kopitar and Kempe. But what's not helping is Trevor Moore, and it's a good thing. Trevor Moore is playing very well, so it's not even like there's that spot in the top 6 that like, all right, he's struggling. Let's let him work it out, keep it there. No, Trevor Moore is playing too good to have that luxury of having PLD in the top 6 to figure it out. So because, like we said, they're playing so well right now, it's kind of like a luxury to let him work it out. They're not getting the return on investment yet. But again, we sit here on November 27th. There's a lot of time to work it out. I'm worried too because I've shared a lot of shares of PLD because of all the things we talked about when we did our mock draft shows here over the summer on Bettor Hockey Now. But you know what? It's the Kings. It's a good. If it was a bad team and he was struggling, then I would be more concerned. The fact that he's on a good team and they have the luxury to let him figure it out on the third line until he can get going again, or until there's an injury in the top 6 that opens the door for him. I'm not concerned yet. I just, I'm in that spot where it's like, do I have the patience? Not even the patience, but do I have the roster availability to let him sit on my bench while he figures it out? Because we all hate it when it's like, all right, screw this guy. I've given him long enough. You cut him. And 2 weeks later, all of a sudden he turns it on. You don't get him back. And he goes on to be a starter for somebody for the rest of the year. So I would say if you have the roster space, hold on just a little bit longer, see what's going. But, if you got to make the move because there's somebody else out there, I'm not against that either, depending upon how shallow your league is.
Are you thinking of trades, though, at this? If you're just going to have him on the bench, or is there any point where, maybe I'll put him on the trade block?
You wouldn't be getting full value for him. So I would say if he's somebody that's sitting on somebody else's team and you're trying to make a trade and you want to get like a throw in to try and balance it out a little bit and maybe buy low on a guy, now maybe you can do that because maybe that owner is, saying what I just said of like, oh, I can't afford to keep this guy. Like he's not showing me spurts to where like, okay, fine, I could keep him on the roster. So maybe that's the way to go is you target him, maybe get him as a throw in or get him, capitalize off some, like a Eli Tolvanen that is not going to keep this up for the Kraken all year. So maybe you sell high on him and try and get a guy like PLD back in that situation is what I would do. But if you try to trade PLD right now, you're not going to get a whole lot for him.
I mean, at that point, I'd much rather just, saddle saddle him to my team and say, hey, look, Shicker, we're going down swinging. If we're going to fail, we're going to fail together. Like, we're here. Like, you can sell him for peanuts, because you're not going to get, unless you trade him to another owner who's dealing with a player in the same position, right? Kind of like a Timo Meier kind of owner, and say, hey, man, do you want to trade one problem for another and see which one takes off, kind of thing? And even that, the Timo Meier owner might be like, well, no, you know what I mean? Like, they're both living the same reality. So you may just say, you know what, I'd much rather hold on to him. The only advantage to Pierre-Luc Dubois is that in Yahoo, he's got dual position eligibility. So he is listed as a winger. I've never seen him line up on the wing, but sure. And, that can help you with some roster flexibility. He's on a very good team that can score goals. Like I said, the LA Kings were just like, I was watching them and I was in awe of just how easy it was for them to facilitate whatever they wanted to do. They did it. They showed up on the ice and they entered the zone, and it looked like, they were playing a minor league hockey team. So I would personally hold him, or if I'm looking to acquire him, I would definitely reach out to that owner and see how many peanuts I can get for Pierre-Luc Dubois. Like, is it cashews? Is it nuts? Tell me whatever it is, and I will try to take it.
Above peanuts, but I think cashew is probably too good of a nut. Probably somewhere in the almond family. I think
he's probably got less than that. It's not even cashews. He's like what is like a subpar nut?
An unsalted basic peanut.
I mean, like, this is for me, but like sunflowers, I don't even know.
I'm not a sunflower seed guy either.
Sunflower seeds are there's just not it, man. There's so much work, and you just open it and there's nothing in there.
Same thing with pumpkin seeds too. Like, what are we doing?
I would assume the pistachio is one of the more top nuts.
Yeah, I would say the pistachio. It's a little pricey. It's not a macadamia nut pricey, but it's approaching that. Plus, I mean, I like pistachios, but I'll buck up and pay for the shelled ones. Not that I just sometimes you get those nuts that are tough to crack, and it's not.
Maybe we're looking at that pack that you get in the vending machine, a Planters salted, one of those long packs.
The mixed nuts.
No, it could just be the regular plain Planters salted nuts.
Okay,
just one of those packs.
Nothing special, but not like totally, not like the worst, not like the shells. We're not serving. It's not peanut shells we're serving. But, all right, so
I think that the sunflower seed is a inferior seed or nut. I'm assuming it's a nut. So
yes.
it's just not fun. Like, why would I go through all that work? I'm not eating the shell, and then I open it and there's nothing in it.
To me, at that point, if I want something salty like that, I'll eat some pretzels. Same thing. Get the same cup. Done and done.
I feel like they're like the trail mix. There's always that one nut that you're just like, I'll just, I don't know. I'll give it to the squirrel, instead. I feel like a sunflower seed would be the one that I'd give to a squirrel.
Well, I mean, with the trail mix, usually the pretzels are the ones that kind of get left behind. Those are the ones that usually are at the end because you want to eat the M&Ms, you want to eat all the other stuff. So, but yeah, if there's seeds in there, then those are definitely last. But hey, there's no other hockey podcast out there that's going to compare Pierre-Luc Dubois to what class of nut he is. So make sure you like, subscribe, and do all that stuff. Now, it's time to get to our main segment here. And it's, we're just a few days past American Thanksgiving, and it's the playoff 3/4 rule here. Saw this graphic floating around on the internet the other day, and it gets talked about every year. So historically, 77% of the teams in the playoff spot at American Thanksgiving make the playoffs. So it's 12 of 16. We see the teams up there on the screen right now: the Bruins, the Knights, the Canucks, the Rangers, Panthers, Stars, Kings, Lightning, Capitals, Avalanche, Hurricanes, Jets, Blues, Maple Leafs, Red Wings, and Kraken. So of those 4 teams here, and I will get that pulled up on the screen, we got to figure out 4 teams that are not going to make the playoffs this year. So
from that
grouping, and let me pull it back up on the screen here. So there are a few teams that I think we absolutely know are in. I mean, let's hope that this exercise actually, let's stand by. The magic of doing this live, folks. Here we go. There we go. Okay, we are on the screen now. So let's zoom in. All right, so we can agree, even though Chris was very against them at the beginning of the season, the Bruins we could probably put in the playoffs right now, correct?
Yes.
Now, keep in mind,
still time for them to fall apart. Still time. They've lost 2 in a row. Let them cook.
Now, don't forget, it's 12 of 16, so it's any 4. It's not like it's got to be 2 in each conference whatever. We can mix and match however we want. Rangers, at this point, the way we were gushing over them before, they're in. Got to be in. Florida looks like a team that's in for the playoffs. Got off to a little bit of a slow start, but they're cooking now. Tampa Bay's got Vasilevsky back earlier than we thought they were going to have him back. So we're going to put them in. No arguments there.
Yeah.
Washington Capitals. Are they our team that we are all ready to say put them out?
I don't want to. Oh man, I don't want to say put them out, but I feel like maybe they're that, that 1 point, final point to get in type of team, kind of like the Panthers were last season, or the Islanders. Kind of that's where I have them. I don't know. I feel like they're going to come back down to earth.
I would be okay with taking them out. I still think they are a very good hockey team. And I think they are going to make, I think they're a better team. If I'm not mistaken now, the Philadelphia Flyers currently hold one of the three, designations of a playoff position. And I don't think the Philadelphia Flyers are a playoff team just yet. I think they're just kind of exceeding expectations. If it's between Philadelphia and the Washington Capitals, I would pick the Washington Capitals. So I'm not ready to pull them out. I understand if some people do want to. This is going to depend on how many games Charlie Lindgren plays, because Darcy Kemper is a skeleton of whatever he was once upon a time, and Charlie Lindgren is just playing super well. So the more Charlie Lindgren plays, the better of a chance the Washington Capitals can stick where they are.
Charlie Lindgren, the guy you gave out last week as their waiver wire recommendation on fantasyalarm.com and right here on Bettor Hockey Now. All right, so with the Capitals, we'll put them in the maybe pile, but they're looking like one of the teams that'll be out. Carolina, as much as they're struggling with their goaltending, we're not ready to kick them out of the playoffs yet, right?
No.
Okay.
I'm kicking them out. Right out. Take your bags, take your things, get out of here. They don't have the goaltending to figure it out. They just got absolutely swatted. I know it's the Edmonton Oilers, but this is not the Edmonton Oilers of last year. This is the Edmonton Oilers of this year, a team that could not score. The Edmonton Oilers are one of the worst scoring teams in the NHL, and they just got absolutely swatted. Antti Raanta is going to fall apart at some point. Freddie Anderson is already fallen apart. Now, mind you, it's not his fault, right? Blood clots, things like that happen. He didn't blow out a knee. But this is a team that can't keep the puck out of their own net. And the Metropolitan Division is extremely competitive, right? So if you have teams in there behind you that can play well and score goals, you're in trouble if you can't stop the puck. Right? Because the Pittsburgh Penguins are out of a playoff spot right now. They have goals to score. The New Jersey Devils are out of a playoff spot. They got goals to score. Are you telling me that Carolina today is going to be better than the Pittsburgh Penguins, the New Jersey Devils? And you know what? We'll even give the Islanders a little bit of love here because they do have a good goalie who is just trying to figure it out. It is what it is. But I'm telling Carolina, man, pack your stuff, get to the Charlotte airport, and be on ready because you may not be there.
Wow. Not even going to let them fly out of Raleigh in their hometown. You're going to make them drive all the way to Charlotte.
Driving over to Charlotte. You're not even leaving Raleigh.
They're giving them the Gerard Gallant treatment, aren't the way the Panthers did a few years ago.
Wherever they are, they're staying there.
Wow. All right. So we got Carolina out for Chris. Toronto we're keeping in. Yes or
Toronto
no?
we're kicking out. This is a team with no goaltending and a team that can't defend. When are we going to understand that teams need a goalie? Who's their, like, Ilya Samsonov is basically just looking around and trying to do something. Joseph Wall, through no fault of his own, has Mark Giordano in front of him, TJ Brody, and the rest of the clowns out there who cannot play defense. They can't play defense. So at some point, the puck's going to go in the net. Now, Mitch Marner can't seem to figure out what he's doing. I guess his paycheck is so heavy that it may be lowering his shoulder and causing some shoulder pain. But once, maybe he figures it out, fine. Willie Nylander is driving this team to where they are currently now. They are in the Atlantic. The Toronto Maple Leafs are fifth. They are fifth. And I think all four teams ahead of them are going to be in it. Boston, it is what it is. Florida is a good hockey team. Let's assume Tampa Bay makes it. Let's assume now that Andrei Vasilevsky is there, he can solidify the goaltending position. That means Toronto is a wild card team, right? So that means that they could easily get passed by all those other teams that we think as well. The New Jersey Devils, if they don't win the division. The Pittsburgh Penguins, if they're not in the division as well. Oh, man. I know. I'm kicking them out. They can leave from Pearson International Airport. They don't have to go anywhere. They can stay there. They don't have to fly anywhere else. But this is a team that cannot defend. And they have no money, by the way. They just put John Klingberg on Robidai Island. That's where he's gone to perish away. So I don't know. They're in the talk about Patrick Kane, and I laugh because last time I checked, Patrick Kane doesn't play defense, right? We talked about this last week. So I'm kicking them out. They take your stuff and leave as well. That's it. If you can't defend, you're not making the playoffs. Stop it.
So Toronto out. Detroit. I got them out. I got them as one of my 4.
I'm keeping them in there.
Chris is keeping them in.
They can hang around a little bit. They're now look, they are where they are. There's things that they need to figure out. I think that on paper, defensively, they should be just fine. Once James Reimer stops dodging hockey pucks, he should be just fine.
I just think, and I was all over them a couple of weeks ago here. I'm not ready to write Toronto off yet, so therefore Detroit. It's kind of just like, okay, if I'm going to keep keep Toronto, then you can't keep Detroit, kind of thing for me. And how do we feel about the Wings after they've beaten the Devils twice this season, pretty convincingly?
Yeah, they're another team that's like right on the bubble for me. Like I can't just have Carolina and Toronto out just yet. Those two teams are. I got to see them out to believe that they're out of a playoff spot. So I just don't. I don't know. I don't see it just yet. This Eastern Conference is tough, man. You got some teams, like Chris said, Islanders, Penguins, Devils. Those are some teams that are going to come back and fight for these final couple of spots here, and even the Capitals. So this is a tougher conference to figure out to me than the West is.
For sure. We, the West. All right, let's go to the West here. So we agree Vegas is in the playoffs. They're staying. We agree Vancouver's in the playoffs, right? No arguments there. They're a playoff team. All right, Dallas, LA, Colorado, Winnipeg. We've talked about how good those teams are previously here today. Lock those 6 in. Now, for Anthony and I, we've got 2. We both kicked out Washington and Detroit, so we've got 2 teams left. I'm happy to put St. Louis and Seattle in there. St. Louis is playing all right now, but and I know Jordan Binnington can go in those modes where he just wants to. He's going to win games and he's going to will the team to win. I don't think St. Louis is really built well. I don't think they're deep enough. I think they are a mediocre at best team. Seattle, same thing. I think they overachieved a little bit last year. I think they're still a tough team to play, but they've got some holes they need to fix, and the West is very strong. That being said, talked about the wild card being opened, but so I've got Edmonton in one of those wild card spots. Who takes that other spot? I don't know yet. I got to think about it. But the 4 teams I'm getting rid of are St. Louis, Seattle, Detroit, and Washington. Now, Anthony, are you with me getting rid of the Blues and the Kraken here?
Yeah. I'm taking those 2 teams out. If any of the 2 teams were to go back in, I would go with the Kraken because they have the experience of being in the in the playoffs last year. But those two teams are the definite easy choices to knock them right off.
All right. So, Chris, you have gotten rid of Carolina, Washington, and Toronto, which leaves you with 1 team left to kick out. Who are you kicking out?
I'm going to kick out the Seattle Kraken. I think St. Louis can stay there. I think that because I think the Western Conference has such a gap in that middle, like there's not like either you're in or you're out kind of thing. There's no like real team just hanging around. I think St. Louis can get away with it, right? They're good defensively, but they're good up front. There's decent, and Jordan Binnington is doing it. They're like an average just team. They're just there. They're just okay. Like, St. Louis, you're like, all right, cool. But Seattle, as of today, they're a -16 in the goal differential. They've given up 78 goals. They've given up more goals than the Edmonton Oilers. Now, granted, they've played 2 more games. But still, this is not a team that is a high-scoring team, or at least I don't look at them as a team that has a ton of scoring, and you're giving up way too many goals to make this a good team. So if you're giving up that many goals, again, the theme tonight is goaltending and defense and keeping the puck out of their net. Some teams are not doing that. So I think Seattle leaves themselves a little bit open. I was shocked to see that Seattle was in a playoff spot come U.S. Thanksgiving. I didn't think that was a thing. So I don't like them. Now, who's going to take their spot? I don't know. That is the mystery that they may qualify by default, right? Like nobody opposes them and they just walk right in because that's where we are in life. But I mean, could Calgary make a run at it if they get some decent goaltending? Jacob Markstrom is, has his numbers are what they are, but his goals saved above expected are there. He is making the difference if only his team could follow suit. I mean, the Nashville Predators, could they make a run? They've got good goaltending. Their defense is what it is. Philip Forsberg shooting the puck a ton. Ryan O'Reilly looks great. Do they have enough depth? I don't know. The Arizona Coyotes are kind of like a mystery. Who knows if Minnesota figures it out? Who knows if Edmonton figures it out? The Anaheim Ducks, like, okay. But I don't feel there's a real push in the West from some of these teams that are out to get in. Now, can any of these teams go on a run? Sure, because they got to play each other. So, bad teams play bad teams. One of them's got to win, unfortunately. So I don't know, but I will leave St. Louis where they are. And I'll just say Seattle is not where they should be. And who takes their spot, just figure it out amongst yourselves.
Okay, so let's wrap up the West here. So Chris has got Vegas, Vancouver, Dallas, LA, Colorado, Winnipeg, St. Louis, and question mark because that's a valid answer because it is very murky.
The Western Conference is taking applications for the 8th spot. Just please apply here. No experience required. Entry level position. Just sneak right in if you want.
Anybody can apply. I've got Edmonton as one of those 2 wild card teams, and I know things look bad in Minnesota right now, and they're 5-10-4, and they're 2 points ahead of the Blackhawks and 4 points ahead of the Sharks. If I think Edmonton can rally from 15, then why can't Minnesota from 14? Anaheim's probably going to trade John Gibson at some point. Calgary is just too wishy-washy at this point to really get a read on them. Arizona is a fun, competitive, bad team. Nashville, I just don't think has the mix. And Seattle, I think, overachieved. So if I got Edmonton taking one spot, I'm going to say that Minnesota should maybe right the ship and maybe take that last spot. So, Ant, you have the same 2 teams out in the West. Who are you putting in?
I am going to put Edmonton in there. And I will also take I'll take the Kraken for the last spot.
Ah, okay. So if you're putting them back in, that means you got to get rid of somebody else.
Wait a minute.
You
can
can't
take somebody else out of the East
and love them at the same time. You have to, you're either Switzerland or you're me. So there is no middle in between. Either we love them.
Because I had St. Louis out and the Kraken out.
Right. So you're going to take Edmonton's going to take one spot. Who you got on the other?
I don't know, man. This is tough.
It's tough. There's no
That's exactly it.
You can literally make an argument for or against every other team except for probably the Sharks and you could make an argument that Connor Bedard carries them to a wild card 2 spot if you want to, but the Sharks are the only team that I'm ready to be like, nope, not them.
Can I get a little crazy and go Arizona?
Sure.
Connor get a little crazy.
Playing good hockey right now. It's not totally far-fetched.
Let's get a little crazy. Let's go Arizona Coyotes, the final spot.
Can you imagine what playoff tickets would cost in a 5,000 person seat arena? Especially
imagine the playoffs in a 5,000 seat NHL college rink.
No, you know what would be terrible is if they played Vegas in the first round and you would have all these. It's like a 4-hour drive, 3-hour drive, whatever it is. No, like 4. I think I should know. I've done it. Yeah, that would be terrible. If Arizona gets into the playoffs, they have to play a team that's not close to them geographically, where fans can come in and kind of they would need to play like a Winnipeg or somebody like that. Even then, you have the old Jets versus the new Jets.
So a lot of storylines that write themselves there.
There you go. So let's go back to the Eastern Conference here. So Anthony and I have Anthony and I have Washington and Detroit out. The 2 teams I would put in their place. Devils, I think there's just too much talent there and they'll get it going. And they strike me as one of those teams that's going to, when they figure it out, they're going to win like 12 out of 15 or something like that and just vault up in the standings. And then the other team in the East, I mean, I got to go Pittsburgh. I've been all over them I'd still have to throw them in there. I would say Pittsburgh would be the other team, and only 3 teams from the. So I got the Rangers, I've got the Devils, and I've got the Penguins and the Canes. So yeah, it'll be 4 there, and then it'll be the other 4. It'll be Toronto, Florida, Tampa, Boston. So those would be my 8. Anthony, who are you putting in the the Detroit and Washington spots? Chris has got me all thrown off here.
I'm going to go with the Devils and be a homer, of course. And then I'm going to put the Islanders in there.
Right.
I'm going to go with the Islanders in their goaltending.
Sometimes, and they were right there last year. So, I mean, that's all you need. And nobody else is really establishing themselves. So if we're playing the game where somebody has to go in, that's certainly a team that's right there. Now, Chris, you've got some work to do. You've got 3 teams you need to replace here. You've got Carolina out, Washington out, Toronto out.
I was willing to live with Washington, but you guys have decided I'm kicking them out, and that's fine because it makes it a lot easier.
He really wants 4 out. He wants Boston out. He wants Boston out so hard.
And I wish, but some people are taking they were taking a victory lap a little bit early. I know at U.S. Thanksgiving it's 77%, but they still got to play 82 hockey games, and we've seen teams drastically fall apart at any given point. That being said, I mean, I'll start with Carolina and Toronto because we could easily replace those teams by the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New Jersey Devils. Tristan Jarry has good goaltending numbers. His goal saved above expected is there. The Penguins, the problem is they lose in regulation and they lose a lot, right? Like the Islanders have lost 6 times in overtime. So at least they collect a point every time. They want to disappoint their whole fan base. Pittsburgh doesn't. They win or they lose. They are healthy, which is good. How long that health lasts, I don't know. Because as we go on to the season, Chris Letang is going to get hurt from something. Kenny Malkin's going to get, I don't know, the fever. So as long as this team stays healthy, they at least can make a push. And you don't go out and get Erik Karlsson so you could be 6th in the Metropolitan. The same thing with the New Jersey Devils. I think not many teams can survive losing your top 2 centers at any given point of the year. So I think a healthy Nico Hischier balances out that team. Jack Hughes being where he is, very, very good. I think once Timo Meier comes back and he figures out, what he needs to do, this is a good team. The rest of that team is good too. Jesper Bratt scores goals. Tyler Toffoli scores goals. They need to defend better, and they need somebody in the blue paint to just take over. I think they can get there. And since we've eliminated the Washington Capitals, right? Since you guys have decided I'm kicking them out, I'll put the New York Islanders in there, right? Ilya Sorokin is a good goalie. The numbers aren't there, but if anybody can correct it, it's going to be him because the New York Islanders play that style of hockey that just easily ASMR to put you to sleep. They are there. They go out. They're not really that much fun. They are there. They're there. And if you play good defense and you win hockey games 2-1 and 3-1, it's going to be enough. I would like to support the Philadelphia Flyers. I just don't know if they can hold it. So I would like I think the New York Islanders are a better team than the Philadelphia Flyers. And that's where I go. There's a lot of movement that's going to happen in the East because I feel like there's just a cluster of teams that are so tight together that at some point somebody's going to have to take off. And the teams that don't defend well and the teams that cannot keep the puck out of their own net are just going to fall into hindsight, and their coaches will be fired at the end of the year.
I'd like to go in a time machine and maybe a month and a half ago and be like, we're going to have this playoff segment, and Chris does not have Devon Levi and the Sabres in it. Now, obviously, a lot has happened since then, but I would like to,
I mean, I need Devon Levi to send me a apology card because I stuck my neck out right there, and I'm watching him lose games, and I'm like, Devon, help me out. Like, I can't take a double L on Levi and the Bruins. Taking the L on the Bruins, it is what it is. But man, this team, like the Buffalo Sabres can't defend very well, which is unfortunate. Now Tage Thompson is hurt, and they're rocking 3 goalies, and I'm like, oh, that's your spot, Devin. If only you could get there. He is a rookie. We understand the growing pains are there. Maybe they turn the season around, and look, they've played 21 games. They have 20 points. They're 5 points. There's 5 points difference between the Panthers and them. So, I don't know. I wish the Buffalo Sabres would be better so we can get on the wagon, but man, it's tough.
Well, we'll see. I mean, again, it's we're not even in December yet, and even though that trend of the playoffs and American Thanksgiving tends to be true, I mean, a lot of things can happen between now and then. Now, before we get out of here, of course, got to play a little game called Sweater Weather, since we talked a little Winnipeg Jets hockey earlier today, and keep in mind they were originally the Atlanta Thrashers. So which of these two jerseys would you take? The baby blue Thrasher jersey with the Atlanta written down the sleeve, or are we taking the Winnipeg Jets reverse retro that takes the Winnipeg Jets logo but merges those Thrasher colors in there? What do we got first, Ed? Which one are you buying?
I'm gonna go with the Thrashers jersey. I do like that Winnipeg Jets logo, but I like it with the original with the red. I'm not a big fan of that blue on blue there. So I'm gonna go take the Atlanta Thrashers. Unfortunately, with that team being gone now.
I would buy both. I mean, those are two very, very good jerseys. It's a shame the Atlanta Thrashers couldn't figure it out. But the Jets jersey is nice. I think it is very good. I would buy it if I was a Jets fan. I would have no problem supporting it. If they wore it, if they wore it full time, I would definitely support it. But man, that Atlanta Thrasher jersey is just like it's not sexy by any mean, but the instantly when it showed up there, I just thought of Ilya Kovalchuk and just the dominance of when he showed up there, and Kari Lehtinen that was just elite for the longest period of time.
Kari Lehtinen.
Yes, Dustin Byfuglien, right, when he was there as well. I know now
Chris Chelios played there.
Chris Chelios as well. Dustin Byfuglien, by the way, now a professional fisherman. He is an elite. I guess there's a league where people can professionally fish. That is what he does. So just the whole Atlanta Thrashers. I know, terrible hockey team, but that jersey was very good. I would buy it. And if you're looking to buy one, man, the people who have a hold of those they're raking in money now.
All right, so we're going to make it 3 for 3 here. I agree with Anthony's assessment that if I'm going to buy a Winnipeg Jets jersey, I want that blue and red and the typical look, like the Teemu Selanne look, or if you want to go back to the WHA days, I like that look too. What I don't like about the Jets reverse retro is they didn't incorporate any of that like orange shade from the Thrasher. I understand it's a tough color to mix in, but maybe on the trim on the sleeves or something like that, or on the neck, just something to make it pop anymore. That Thrasher jersey, and yes, that's an Ilya Kovalchuk jersey there. Fun fact, actually, I was at their when they got swept out of the playoffs the one time they made it. I was there because it was at the hands of the New York Rangers. It was the first New York Ranger playoff game I ever went to, and they swept the Thrashers. They dominated that series. Atlanta had no shot. But yeah, I got to go to Atlanta Thrasher jersey on the left there. And the more I look at it, the more I may be trying to find a Thrasher jersey. It would just be a matter of who at that point. Maybe
all those mid 2000 jerseys where they had the side where it had that little shade in between your side area. I remember a lot of jerseys being like that in that that whole area, that whole time frame, like mid 2000s.
I was really excited when Ilya Kovalchuk ended up in a Montreal Canadiens jersey. It was probably 15 years too late, but I do own a jersey of it. I remember when they traded him, I was like, man, I know he wasn't going to be here for a long time. He was here for a good time, so I went straight to the store, got a 25% discount, obviously, because he was gone. I've worn it once, but I like seeing it in my closet. It just reminds me of a good time when he was here, just having fun. And the Montreal Canadiens weren't very good, but he was here, and it was fun.
I would ask Anthony how he feels about Ilya Kovalchuk as a Devils fan, but we don't have enough time to really let that vent in that venting session happen here. Maybe next time here on Bettor Hockey Now on the Bettor Sports Network. But that does it for another edition. This one was chock full. We talked Rangers, Jets. We talked Edmonton Oilers. We've talked playoff picture. We had a good time here on this edition of BHN on Fantasy Alarm YouTube and the Bettor Sports Network YouTube. But for at Fuzzy Chris 91, Christopher Morais, and at Ant Rivera 86, maybe I'll learn how to talk today, Mr. Anthony Rivera. I'm at Pucking Thoughts, Adam Bernard. We'll be back with you next Monday evening with a new edition of Bettor Hockey Now for the first in December on BSN and Fantasy Alarm. See you later, folks.
Bettor Hockey Now is on the Bettor Sports Network.